Hi there, everyone. Just a quick video for you today. We constantly in our recruitment team get queries from our contractors around what is the right time for moving from contract to perm or vice versa. So I've enlisted today the help of Jimmy Sheehan from Contracting Plus. Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, Tracy.
How are you? So just to bring us through some of the questions that we often get from our market around potentially when the right time is to consider a move from perm to contract. So I wonder if you might give us some of your thoughts.
Yeah, certainly. I think what people tend to think is that contracting is a stopgap, but actually there are thousands, literally thousands of what we call career contractors, people who are contracting every day of their lives, and they move from project to project. Typically, we have found over the years that when the economy is on an upward trajectory, that contracting teeters out or even drops a little bit, especially when there's high employment. And then when the economy starts to slink again, there's more people in unemployment, that contracting starts to rise and rises exponentially. However, over the last 24 months, we've seen contracting rising all the time, even when the market was strong. So I think there's a lot of people who are looking at contracting and saying, well, look, actually, this is a really, really good way of working. In terms of what might be driving that, I think a lot of it is down to we hear phrases like remote working and flexibility, and I think contracting naturally gives people those benefits. Sure. Will your earnings go up? Absolutely, they will. Contractors do earn more money, and that's because there's a risk premium built in for that. Mm-hmm. But again, there's a lot of safety nets there that I can talk to you about if you want. Yeah. Other benefits people have is they build up experience. I mean, Tracy, as a contract recruiter, that you're more interested really in the skills and the projects people have worked on rather than the layout of the CV. It's really what can you do hit the ground running. And if an individual out there has that type of a skill set in their industry, they're really, really primed already to be a contractor and earn good money.
Yeah, I think so. I think during the start of the COVID crisis, we had some inquiries from people who were self-employed. They were potentially supporting the IT industry. They were supporting a lot of SMEs, and a lot of that business dried up for them given the situation. So, quite a few of those people reached out to us, which I thought was interesting, around maybe filling that gap with the contract. Could you tell them a little bit about that, around what it would mean for a self-employed person to consider taking on a contract?
Yeah, so I think the first thing to remember is people out there will be like self-employed. You could either be a sole trader or you could be working through a limited company. We typically don't deal with sole traders, and because none of the companies who employ contractors will tend to deal with sole traders, so you would have to operate through a limited company structure. So somebody who already has their limited company, it's a seamless transition. They get in contact with someone like yourself, Tracy, and once they have the right insurances in place, tax clearance certificate, they're going to be fine. They'll be on site in no time at all. The sole traders, actually, funnily enough, are just as easy because of the umbrella structures that are available. Now, very briefly, in case people aren't aware of what that is, that's a company that already exists. It already has a bank account. It already has tax clearance certificate, I should say, and insurances. So somebody can come in, step into an umbrella company, same day setup, less than an hour, and the very next morning, again, you could be on site with a contract. So any of those people who were operating in, with SME clients and they found that work has dried up, they could be absolutely perfect for a contract role.
Absolutely. And I think, it does lend itself very nicely into the contract world. I think self-employed people are very well used to managing their taxes. They're also maybe aware of some benefits of self-employment in general. So yeah, I think it is a nice transition for people. But I suppose with regard to the market, is there any specific concerns that you find you hear from candidates who are maybe potentially considering one way or another?
A lot of the time, I suppose the concerns are discussed, at the recruiter level, at the consultant level. But I think certainly when people come to us, especially if it's a first-time contract for them, job security is probably the biggest one. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, contract roles are on the up, and when the economy is on a downward trajectory, companies are a little bit more cautious about offering permanent roles, so contract roles become more plentiful, which means that there'll always be a contract role after your existing contract role ends. The worst case scenario is the economy's on the way back up again and people are looking for your skill set. So, I mean, job security, the job for life is long gone. None of us have that anymore. But I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Smaller things we might find are mortgages comes up from time to time, but contractors can and do get mortgages. We can recommend a couple of good mortgage brokers around that area. Social security comes up. What about job seekers benefit? And again, the government's done a lot in that area over the last number of years. So, self-employed people and self-employed contractors are pretty much on a par with employees these days.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think within the Everos group, certainly if we have an opportunity for a contractor to come on board as a contractor, we do have the option of taking them in-house if they do need to have that, security to assess mortgage, to manage that situation. So we can take them in-house. A lot of our IT skills do lend themselves very well to contractors as a stopgap as well. And I think, as you say quite rightly, at the end of a contract, it's the fear of not another contract afterwards. But I think in our experience within our group and the contractors that we work with, we quite often do have contractors that come on for a very short period initially, and then they tend to roll on to another contract, and then we redeploy them somewhere else, and they do gain this huge bank of really, really excellent experience, and that transition works really well for them. So is there anything there that you can offer around contractors moving from one to another?
I think you've covered it there, Tracy. What you've just said is if you're going to go down into a contracting role, and that's a career path you're going to consider, the best thing you can do is attach yourself to a good contract recruiter, someone who's going to be looking out for you, staying in touch with you, and what they're going to do is 60-90 days out from the end of your contract, they're already going to be talking to you about look, I'm going to check, does your existing client need another project done? And if not, I'm going to start looking at other clients that might need your skill set. So I think they become they become your advocate, and they're already looking for your next contract role before the existing one is finished.
Absolutely. So look, I think timing, I don't think there's ever a bad time to consider contract, but equally perm, if those roles are out there, it's another viable option. But certainly I think contracting is certainly worth consideration for the IT professionals out there.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Jimmy, thanks so much for your help today. And let's keep in touch, and we'll get more people contracting if we can.
Great stuff. Lovely to talk to you, Tracy.
Great. Thanks, Jimmy. Take care.